We'll ride down. Whoa! There we go. Not bad. Well, good day everyone. This is the ADV Medic and I'm finally back on the bike. We'll see if I can stay on the bike now. Alright, so it's middle of January, well, end of January actually. And so I'm out here gonna do some snow riding. I'm not sure how far I'm gonna get because this is more like ice riding and I really don't have the tires for that, but we'll see what happens here. So we'll ride down. Whoa! There we go. We'll turn it off. Yeah, I didn't think I'd last long in here. You can see here what I did is I slid down into that hole. Just couldn't keep it. As much as I tried, shouldn't be too bad. There we go. Boy, it's a good thing I wore my motocross boots today, knowing that I might go down. As you can see here, I just lost it sliding down into this hole. Probably the smarter way to go would have been to ride the whole or stay up on the flat up there. But that's why they call it adventure riding, right? So, like I say, I wasn't sure how far I'd get up, but this is such a crowned road. In other words, it's so rounded. I don't know if I really dare go up it very far. I think we'll just kind of mosey back onto pavement and commit the cardinal sin of riding mostly on road today. But that's okay. I want to get some spiked tires so I can come out here and ride in the wintertime. I think it'd be a lot better. But I don't know, we'll see. One of these days I might switch out to a set of some spikes and throw them on a old pair of really meaty cheapo tires or something. But the frank matter of it is that I'm not that great of a rider. I got my front wheel full of snow. So that's a little bit of adventure for you. That's kind of fun. Dropping the bike down there, and haven't dropped the bike since I was in Moab last, so it's been a while. But it's kind of fun. So this is the town of Bear River. And it's a cute little place. It's just north of Evanston, and there's not really much here. In fact, there's no businesses as far as I know. No stoplights, nothing like that. It's just a little town just on the outskirts of Evanston, probably about 15-20 minutes away. But just a couple little ranches and little hobby farms, and then a bunch of people that like to live out off a dirt road somewhere, you know. So kind of a neat little place. A couple friends of mine live up here. But it's a great place, and luckily this road is not solid ice, so it makes it a lot better. So I want to just really quickly tell you guys I really appreciate you. We hit 100 subscribers just the other day, and I hope that's a milestone of many more, and hope to see us starting to really start to grow as a channel as far as subscribership and things like that. I want to start putting out, you know, videos on at least a monthly basis, and then when things get busier during the year in the summertime when we're out doing stuff more on the bikes, you know, doing them every week. But I do work a full-time job. In fact, I work a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs, so you know, finding time to do videos is a little tough, but you know, we make do when we can and try to get it done. So we really appreciate all the support, and especially those of you that have subscribed and to watch our videos and comment on the videos that we make. So it's a really kind of a humbling thing to think that I would ever be qualified to give anyone advice with regard to motorcycles, but there's a few people out there that apparently think that what I have to say isn't too bad. So I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, and I hope you continue to subscribe and watch, and if you haven't already, click on the little bell icon. And I would like to hear some suggestions for videos. You know, I can come up with stuff, and I can, you know, continue to be a blowhard like I am, but I would love to be able to put together some content that is important to you, the viewers. So if you happen to come up with an idea or have a question on maybe when a bike you're working on or something along those lines, feel free to ask those questions and send me a suggestion on a video, and I'll see if I can't put something together for you, and that if I can do a decent job at it, I'll put together a quick video for you. So I wanted to just talk about real quick the proper care and feeding of a motorcycle in the wintertime. So there's been a lot of debate, and you know, depending on the type of bike you're doing, it maybe is a little different, but also it really depends on where you live. You know, if you're in a planet like mine where we're under snow for 6 months of the year, you know, the care in the wintertime is going to be a little different than, say, if you're in you know, California, where snow is a few weeks and then you're done, or none at all. So you know, but wintertime, you know, your biggest concern in the wintertime is, number one, your battery, because if you're using a lead acid battery, you know, which most of us are, you know, maybe a lithium battery, but which has its own considerations, but a lead acid battery does not like to be discharged, and they also do not like to hold a charge when it's cold. So there's a couple things to consider. One is, you can do like we do with campers a lot of the time, is if you're not going to be on the bike for many months, go ahead and pull that battery out, just get it in somewhere where it's room temperature, you know, in a cellar or something like that, or in a closet somewhere. You just want to make sure it doesn't have stuff piled on top of it, of course. And then if you have a tender, go ahead and plug it into it and use that tender. And that'll just keep it healthy. And what it does is it gives a very small charge to it at all times, and it just keeps that topped off. And that's the way lead acid batteries like to live. They like to live charged. So that's the battery maintenance. If you do have it on the bike, best to have it on a tender, or, you know, if you're like me, I am neglectful on all my maintenance, and especially my winter maintenance with my vehicles, but I've really not had a problem just leaving it on the bike and watching it. Now, if you end up with noticing that you're starting to lose power in those batteries, there's a couple things to look at. One, you could just do a tender. That will usually solve the issue. But the other thing that can happen is, this happens on some bikes and a lot of four-wheelers, and that is that they end up with some type of drain on the battery, whether it's running some little sensor that doesn't get turned off when you turn the key off, or what happens. I've never been able to figure out where it is on my four-wheeler. It's a 2007 Suzuki King Quad 700, and that darn thing has a battery drain. It killed batteries on a regular basis for years, and after about 3 batteries, I finally got sick of replacing that huge Yuasa battery that cost $140 a pop. And so I put a kill switch on it, and what you do is you put that on the positive side of that battery, and it now has a kill switch. You might see that. It's actually a marine kill switch I put on there, so it's waterproof, and it's pretty durable and big, and it's really easy to tell if you're on or off. At any rate, it's I put that on there, and since then I haven't had to replace the battery. That's been almost 7 years. Far longer than you would expect from a battery like that, a lead acid AGM battery, I believe it's called. It's the gel batteries that and stuff. It's a really good battery, but it has lasted 7 years and still going strong. So it's pretty amazing how well that works. And I haven't used a tender. In the wintertime, if it does get drained down a long ways, if I left the kill switch on or something like that, as long as I don't leave it too long, I just stick my tender back on it, or my charger back on it, and charge it for 24 hours at 2 amps, and it's good for another, however long until I forget again. So that's worked really well, and I've really enjoyed it. That's worked really well that way. As far as my bikes are concerned, on this, the DR650 and the DRZ400, on both of those, I haven't put a tender on them. I haven't done anything to them really, but I run them in the wintertime. So in the wintertime, I start them at least once a month, if not every week. And the trick is with that is for running a vehicle that you're not going to be running for a while, on motorcycles especially these air-cooled or water-cooled, smaller displacement, anything under 1,000 cc. You don't want to just start it and run it for a minute and then shut it off. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is lubrication. Starting your motor is one of the hardest things on the motor, and you might have heard that before, but that's an important distinction, in that if you start your motor and don't let it really warm up, it's not going to get totally lubricated into the steel and into the metal and stuff that's in your motor, and it's also not going to get all the condensation out of things like your exhaust systems and things like that, and especially in the carburetor. And if you start, you can heat it up just a little bit and then shut it off. You'll actually build condensation in those, and that can be a real problem. It'll build up and can rust or cause corrosion inside of areas like your orifices and your carburetors. So you really want to be careful with doing that. The only way I recommend, if you're going to start your vehicle, your bikes every now and then, every week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it might be, is make sure that when you do that, you run them well enough that you end up getting the lubrication through the motor, through all the gears and everything. You're going through all the gears, and you're warming it up enough that it's actually been ran. The danger there is if you don't do that, you could cause some issues. So at the very least, you need to go for a 10-minute ride or something like that. Make sure the motor gets totally warmed up and stuff. If you don't have that ability, like here where we're at, it's been 2 months since I've been able to actually run this machine around off-road or on-road at all. And so because of that, I haven't started it. And today when I went to start it, it struggled a little bit to start, but that's to be expected. But just turn on the choke and let it crank for a second. Took about 5 seconds. This bike usually is just a quick touch and it starts. So it's more than normal for this bike, but this bike's for some reason it's just been fantastic as far as starting and running. It's just really good, and it's a 22-year-old bike now, so pretty awesome that way. How well this bike is maintained and run. Once I got the carburetor tuned in perfectly, it's been fantastic. So that's something to keep in mind. Just want to do that. So number one, you want to make sure again that you do that. Now the last thing I want to mention is just fuel and fluids and things. You want to make sure you're using a decent quality oil. And I don't know what this guy's doing. Anyway, so you want to use a good quality oil. Put in your favorite fuel. If you can do ethanol free, great. If not, just make sure that it's filled all the way to the cap. You want to cap that off completely on your fuel. If you do have some sea foam, you can throw that in there. But I don't do that. I'll do it if I start having issues, but only if I have issues. I try to use the ethanol free gas it's not available everywhere where I'm at, so I use it. It's available in my hometown, but not when a lot of the places I travel. So what I'll do is in the fall, just before I'm getting ready to put the bike to bed, I'll start using that, and so I make sure that if there is any ethanol fuel left in this tank, it's very little by the time we get to December time frame when I stop riding very much. And so you want to do that if you can, but if you can't, a little bit of an enzyme or something like that, or some kind of stabilizer, fuel stabilizer. But if you ride as much as I do, fuel stabilizer really isn't that important. If you're riding at least every month or two, I don't see that as terribly necessary. So you can keep that in mind. Take it or leave it. However, there's a lot of opinion on that, and now you have mine to add to the stack. But so there's lots of different things you can do that way. As far as oil goes, just make sure I always do an oil change in the fall when I'm done doing the majority of my riding, and then I have a tendency to just check it and top it off in the spring. I rarely have to top anything off because it's usually just fine. But at any rate, it's you just want to make sure that your fluids are looking good, but I change the filter and the oil in the fall, and then if I ride enough through the winter, I usually don't ride more than 1,000 miles a winter, so there's not enough riding there to really warrant an oil change on this bike. And that. So something to be aware of too is when you first start these bikes when they're cold, especially when it's really cold, 15, 20 degrees, Fahrenheit, so 5 below zero on the Celsius scale. You want to make sure that you start it and try not to rev it very much until you hear that oil is getting throughout the motor. The DR650, it's really easy to tell. Every time you start it when it's cold, you can hear kind of a clack for a second, and then it's fine. And so you never want to start this motor and straight away just rev it. That's a very bad idea. On some motors, that's a good idea, right? Some 2-strokes and some older KTMs and stuff, that was highly recommended because it actually throws the oil up on the top of the motor. But in this bike, you just want to let it kind of do its thing. The top end of the motor is not lubricated until you get a couple cranks on the motor. So you just want to be careful of that, and so you don't end up seizing something up or causing a problem with non-lubrication. So other than that, you just want to, if you can, store the bikes inside and then put a cover on them. Whether they're inside or outside, a cover is a great way to go. Just make sure it's actually a bike cover. I've got a fairly cheap one that works, but I keep my bikes in the garage, so I just find that if you store them outside, they get trashed pretty bad, and I always worry about them getting stolen, so I'm really lucky I have a garage and I can store them in there. But if you do have to store your bike outside, make sure you get a cover on it. Even in the summertime, always do that too, because the sun absolutely destroys plastics and seats and things like that, and they're pretty hard on bikes, so you just want to keep that in mind. But anyway, so proper care and maintenance on a bike, basically at the end of the day, there's a lot of opinion out there. There's a lot of recommendations, whether that's factory recommendations or those by people who supposedly are experts. I would never pretend to be one, but hopefully this is helpful to somebody out there. But at the end of the day, if you top off the fuel, make sure your oil is in good shape, cover it, and then just take care of your battery. You really can't go wrong. So anyway, have a great day, and we'll see you on the trails.